Welcome back to today's episode, everybody. Today we'll be looking at how to make chips and dip, or nachos as you would like to call it. How about you try some before we get started? Cheese? Salsa? Cheese? Salsa? Yeah, go ahead. Try it. Yeah, good, right? I didn't think so. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of One Plate Gourmet. Today we'll be looking at how to make nachos, or better yet, chip and dip, as you're used to. Let's get started, shall we? We'll start off with a half a pound of beef, our 1 red onion, 2 avocados, make sure they're nice and ripe, a half cup of diced tomatoes, 1 green bell pepper, 8 ounces of Velveeta cheese, a half a cup of milk or skim milk, whichever you prefer, some or a lot of parsley, again up to you, 3 tomatoes, nice ripe and plump tomatoes, very good for this, some lemon juice and some lime juice, and some pepper and salt as usual to taste, of course, and of course our tortillas, homemade or store-bought. I prefer store-bought because it saves a lot of time for this. I'll teach you that next time. So we'll first start off by cutting our onion in 2. We're going to use half of it for this first recipe. This is going to be how to make the cheese sauce. So we'll first start off by mincing the onion into nice bite-sized pieces. Careful not to nip your fingers. And once that's done, we'll go on to cutting up our pepper. Now, you're not going to use too much of the pepper for this, so you can save the rest. And after you've gotten rid of the seeds, then we shall begin to dice our pepper into nice, thick, big chunks. I prefer thick chunks for this recipe, so do as you will. This is up to you. Once that's done, we move on to the stove. Over medium heat, we're going to heat up our onions and saute them. Well, not really saute because it's not a frying pan, but you get the point. We're going to heat it up till it's translucent, and then we're going to add in our beef. Just give it a good mix till browning occurs, and once that's done, we can proceed to add in our green peppers. And once that's done, we let it mix in, let all the nice flavors get in there. Then season, of course, with some nice kosher salt, a generous amount, I would say, not too much. Of course, do it to taste. You're looking at this video, I did it to taste. You can see me tasting it right there after I add some pepper. I think I tasted it right there, see there. And then you add in your diced tomatoes. Now this is a good step because you don't want to add the tomatoes in too early because it's still going to cook for a while. Now we're going to cube our Velveeta cheese into a nice 1 inch by 1 inch by 1 inch and cover it up for about 8 minutes. Once that's done and set, we're going to lift our lid and just mix it up to get whatever cheeses that didn't melt. Pretty much all of them melted by now. And then we'll add in our 1/4 cup of milk or skim, whichever you used. Give it a good mix and set it to a simmer. Next, we'll move on to our avocado dip. Just take your knife and run straight through till you hit the seed, and then go all around so you can open it up like a walnut. Take your hands and move it across. Made a mistake. All right, let's try this a second time, and it still doesn't look any better. But nonetheless, we only need the avocado for its sweet, juicy insides. Just remove them, put them in a bowl, and set them aside. Then we're going to take our tomato and we're going to cut it into 2 nice halves. We're going to use our spoon and carefully remove the seeds from the insides. We don't need the seeds in this dip. Then we're going to take our knife and we're going to cube our tomato into nice chunks. We don't want them too small for this recipe. You want the dip to be a little chunky. Once this is done, we're going to proceed to mince our parsley. Get rid of the stem, we don't need it for this recipe. And we're going to cross hash it to make sure we get it into nice, fine pieces. Once that's done, just scoop that up and set it to the side. And using your avocado masher, yeah, go get one from your local grocery store. We'll begin to mash up our avocados. Not too much though, we want them a little chunky. Then we add in our tomatoes and give it a good mix. Mix it all up. Then we'll add in our onions. If you like, feel free to add in all the onions. If not, feel free to add in as much as you can handle. You're the one eating it after all, not me. Add in our parsley, give that a good mix. Then season it with some nice kosher salt. Mix it up, turn it, and your dip is all done. For our last sauce, which we'll be using our last 2 tomatoes, we'll be making salsa. Bet you didn't see that coming. Next, we're going to dice up our tomatoes, but only after we have finished de-seeding them, and make them into nice cube sizes. The cubes here will be slightly bigger than the ones we did for the avocado dip, because the tomatoes here are the main ingredient for our salsa. You don't want them too small. Just place them in a nice bowl and set them aside. Retrieve that onion you had from the first part of this video and cut them into nice bite-sized pieces. Add them into your bowl with your tomatoes and give it a good mix. Add in some of our parsley, not too much of it, just about a teaspoon or so. Mix it up till it's all nice and well endowed, if I'm using that word right. And then we'll proceed to add in our lime juice. About a tablespoon of lime juice and a tablespoon of lemon juice. Now if you have real lemon and lime, feel free to use it. I didn't have one in stock, didn't want to go to the supermarket, and so on and so forth. Season with kosher salt and black ground pepper and about a teaspoon of cumin. The cumin will serve to give the salsa a nice earthy flavor, so it'll taste really wholesome. As they say in Rome, back to the cutting board. Now, attempt to cut your tortillas into nice good looking halves, don't mess up, and then take that half, place it on top of the other half, and cut those halves in half. You shall have 4 halves. Bring a pot or a skillet of oil to 275 degrees and begin to add in your tortillas. Add them one by one. If you don't see them sizzling, that means the oil's not hot, so please take it out and try it again. You only want your tortilla chips to be inside here for about a minute on each side. Remember, we're making tortilla chips and not some of that other burnt stuff. Anyway, once this batch is done, begin to add in your second batch and your third. Now this recipe yields about 2 to a lot of chips, so be prepared. Once your last batch of tortilla chips is done, proceed to generously coat your chips with nice kosher salt, and it's done. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you can eat your chips and dip now. And there you have it. Ladies and gentlemen, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. If you'd like to see the trailer for this episode, click up here. And if you would like to see what to watch next, click down there. Choice is yours. Choice is yours, my friend.
I said gay, but okay, Google.